So the question is, should we do it? Should we crypto?
And I think people realize the limitation of wages, right? As a result, they're looking for alternate ways to work money. I do think of crypto as hope money.
I can barely get into the Glastonbury ballot, let alone this crypto game.
Crypto ads were the second most paid for ads during the pandemic. You know that song, Dolly Parton's 9 to 5? The song is called Working 5 to 9 now. She's changed the hours.
So what I'm going to do is damn your kid to hell, put that peso in their diaper, make sure I get that deal with the devil, and we'll just call it even at this stage.
I mean, imagine what kind of situation you have to be in to consider that.
Yathu, how are you? I'm so excited you're here today.
Hi, CJ. Thanks for inviting me onto this podcast. I'm also excited to be here.
That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. So one of the reasons I'm really excited about you being here is because the original idea for this was to be a dummy's guide to crypto, with me being the dummy, student, learner, grasshopper. But then I realized that I'm not even there. I'm so many steps behind that I need to figure out money in general before I can even dive into the crypto space. Mm-hmm. You're a crypto guy. You're an anthropology crypto guy. Please explain.
Okay, so I'm a lecturer in anthropology at UCL. So my speciality is on economic anthropology. And specifically, I look at issues surrounding what money is, how it works in the economy, and I also touch upon things like labor and things like that as well. So my doctoral research was looking at cryptocurrencies and what the whole crypto thing is about, right? And I could be more specific about that later. But essentially what the question I was looking at is, what the hell is cryptocurrencies? Why is it so big? And what does it mean for people?
So the question is, should we do it? Should we crypto?
That's a question I can't answer, obviously. Yeah.
How does one mine for crypto? It sounds like a Minecraft term or something in a game.
Yeah. I think there are different levels of explanation on that question. There's like a very technical explanation and so maybe let's not go into the technical explanation.
Let's go simple. Let's get real simple.
So basically an exchange between two people happens on cryptocurrencies. Like, I give money to you and
on a digital platform.
Yeah, on a digital platform.
What is this platform?
Just the Bitcoin network.
Okay.
Right? But like just conceptually, if you just imagine me giving you some money.
Okay.
And there's a person there. Let's say the suitcase that's there, right? And that suitcase just says, oh, this transaction happened. Okay. And they get a reward for saying, like, verifying that transaction happened. And that's the process of mining.
I had no idea that's what it was.
Yeah, it's that simple. Really.
So the suitcase.
Yeah.
Are we all trying to find the suitcases? Are we trying to steal from the suitcase?
No, so normally, when I'm giving money to you, that transaction is like verified by a central government, right?
Okay.
Or a central bank. But in the case of cryptocurrencies, you don't have a central bank. It's all just code, right? And networks. And there are just you and me in this network. Okay. And someone needs to, if there isn't like this central institution that's saying this transaction happened, you need someone to kind of verify this transaction happened, right?
Right.
So, and this person just verifies that the transaction happened, and they get a little bit of the exchange for verifying that transaction
So you're
happened.
The watcher. Like, essentially, you want to be the watcher watching these transactions
That's
happen.
one way to make money, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's all there is to it.
Oh.
So, but that role is obviously very competitive, and so people compete to be that person that watches that transaction happen.
And when there are more people watching the transactions, does the value of then the exchange or the reward?
I mean, it gets complicated, but for now, it's like, as you can imagine, it's a very lucrative position to be the suitcase, to be the watcher, right? So everyone competes to be a miner. And actually, to compete to be the miner, you have to play essentially a little game that's very energy intensive, right? And you win this game by having like the fastest computer, essentially, or something like that.
Oh, I would never win. Mine's
Yeah,
very
you would never
slow.
win because people out there have like farms that like massive fields of like GPU farms and things that are specifically designed to play this game, to be the suitcase.
I can barely get into
Yeah.
the Glastonbury ballot, let
Yeah.
alone this crypto game. So
No.
I've lost. All right. Well,
But there wasn't a day when that was easier to do, you know? You could just hook up your laptop and mine that way. But now it's harder on the bigger networks like
It's
Bitcoin.
competitive.
It's very competitive.
Yeah. Okay. So you know a bit, so we can go into that later. I've
Yes.
already learned more from you than I have in the entirety of me trying to learn about crypto. So that's exciting. I'm really proud of myself today. Thank you. So let's start with a little bit more about you. You obviously talk about money on the reg, right? You talk about money, you think about money. And so going back, what's your earliest memory of money?
Good question. I think my earliest memory of money, and I can't explain why I have this memory, is I was asking my grandma for some money for sweets. And she said, "No, I don't have any money. Go away." Right?
Did she say go away?
She didn't say go away. I'm just adding some spice to this very boring story.
No, because I could see how you had trauma from that. Your grandmas never tell anyone to go away.
No, she
Especially
normally always gives me money for sweets. But this one time, you know,
Okay.
it says more about my petulance, this story. So I asked for some money and she said no. She probably said, "No, son, it's not available. Like, not right now." Okay. Probably didn't want me to have too many sweets. And I was just angry. And so what I did was, and then I went and looked in her cabinet, and there was a wallet. And in it, there was loads of money in it. And I was like, "You have 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 rupees. How much was in there?" And I only wanted like 1 rupee to buy, this is in Sri Lanka, to buy these sweets. So what I did was I got her wallet and threw it over the cabinet with all the money in it. And so
In a fit of rage.
yeah.
How old were you?
I think I was about like 6, 5, something like
Oh,
that. Yeah.
sweetie.
So I just chucked it over the cabinet, and then I was going to India like the next day or the day after. I later realized that my family were in panic mode trying to find this large sum of money. They were like, "Where the hell is this 50,000 rupees? Like, where could it have gone?" And they were just looking, turning the house upside down, trying to find it.
Did they think someone might have stolen it?
Yeah, they went through all the possibilities. And then finally, they called my mum and me in India. And they said, I think one of my aunts said, "Oh, just ask Yathu." And my mum's like, "Why would he know?" And then I think I came clean. I was like, "Yeah, I chucked it over the cabinet." And they went and looked behind the cabinet and found the money. Yeah. They weren't angry with me, but I remember now thinking like, wow, that's a lot of money that I just chucked over the cabinet.
But that's crazy because, I mean, you know, kids are just so like one-dimensional with their actions. Like, I'm annoyed, this happened, this. But like, yeah, that's so, I mean, it's cute. It's sweet. I can see how that happened. But, oh, man, you sent them into a tailspin.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I need to ask them more about what happened, but
Yeah, what were the consequences of that?
nothing for me.
Did you get sweets from Forever On?
No, I mean, like, my issue, I was very spoiled child. I always got what I wanted and things like that. And I mean, like, we weren't super wealthy, but like, you know, always got things. Yeah.
And what was your takeaway from that experience?
Nothing. Absolutely no
Great.
lessons learned.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you learned absolutely nothing
Yeah.
other than that you might have a really good shot put arm. So what's your current relationship with money?
Okay, so I think my relationship to money is pretty healthy, in the sense that I realize that it's important. Money is important in my life. I need it. I have various people that rely on me, that I would like to support, and I'm not from like, you know, a super wealthy background.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'd like to give money to people to improve their quality of lives and help out people in that way. And so for me, money is important in that way. But I'm also not crazy about money. Like, it doesn't dictate my thinking every single second, like it does for some people. And that I don't fetishize money, which I like about myself. That by that I mean that I don't think it's going to fix every single hole in my life.
That's very rare, I think, to have
Yeah,
that kind of a mindset.
yeah. So I think that's one thing I like about me, that I don't have that mindset, and it's essentially a tool for me to help people that I would like to help. And my life expenses are very minimal. Like the things that I like to do, I still buy sweets. So
Well, you can't give up on the good stuff. Stay true to who you are,
yeah, yeah,
But I really like that. And I this is where I'm trying to get to. I like how you said fetishize, money, because I think that's such an apt way to describe what we all do. It's like money signifies hope. Money signifies freedom. Money will fix, if we have more money, everything will be solved. And this is exactly what will not happen, because unless you figure out why you have a complicated relationship with money, or figure out how to keep the money around, it will disappear as soon as it came in, as quickly as it came into your life. Giving someone a fat lump of cash doesn't solve anything. I mean, you hear of these lottery winners who then become bankrupt, really quickly. That's aspirational, truly, to have. And where do you think that came from?
This attitude towards money.
Yeah, this like very pragmatic, healthy.
I think it's being a migrant. I think migrants have a particular interest in money, right? So I wasn't born here. I came here pretty early, when I was about 8 years old. And when you come here, there's this idea that you have to help family back home, right?
Okay.
And and I sometimes think about like, oh, why is it that I got to leave Sri Lanka and other people didn't, and so on. So, and one thing that migrants do and feel is this like, oh, I need to help out people that I've left behind, and it's not all about me.
Yeah.
And I'm involved in this network that between these two countries, right? So, and that I think gives me a grounding in that, like, it's never all just about me when it comes to thinking about money, I think. So I think that is somewhere around there is where I think I get my relationship to money.
I mean, I would say that sounds very familiar with how my parents, especially my mom, did it. Mm-hmm. There was always this, like, she's got to look after who's also in Sri Lanka. And so the money was never just here or, wherever we were. It was like always spread, and how can she make sure that they're doing okay? But I will still say, there are a lot of migrants who don't see it that way, and it's like, how can I make more and more and more and more? And like, how do we get out? But money is freedom, but I like your attitude towards it.
You're right. Yeah, I think that is true. Some migrants, I think, do to go to, like, it does become their whole consuming life. And I know plenty of people like that. And it completely makes sense that some of my relatives just completely go after money, right? Because they're like, okay, every single minute, they're like, how much shifts can I work? How long can I work? How much? And that's all they think about. And I totally understand that. And I think it comes from a good place, right? There's a lot more like conservative South Asians as well, kind of. And this idea of entrepreneurialism is
very strong.
Yeah, very prevalent. And I think that's why they're getting behind like conservative agendas a bit more now as well. Whereas kind of Labour and the left don't understand that aspirational quality of South Asians. And it's troubling. I mean,
And do you find that narrative, those two narratives play out in your own family? Are there others who have that, the more like, got to chase the money, conservative, keep money, build it, make your own?
Yeah. I think there are people like that within my family. I think I would say they're much more I think that's most of them within my family, right? And / all of them. No, but I really look up to them, like, and they do that because they came from a hard place and they've got more than their mouths to feel.
Yeah, no.
These were people that always sent money back. And that was an interesting day. So I remember my dad when he was young, like, he would be so excited about Sundays. And and Christmas and all these things, not because it was a holiday, but because it was double pay at the petrol station. And I was like,
Wow.
Dad, and he was just like, yeah, I don't care. Like, it's double pay on that day. I'll just work, And so that was the mentality. That was the attitude. And that was that hunger that gives people that determination, I think.
Well, as also he wanted to give to his family back in Sri Lanka, but also you guys, right?
Yeah.
Double pay means he can give you more things, get you better resources for the things that you need. And
I mean, everyone wants to do that, but I think with migrants, it's so intense, that feeling, because you've come to this new country that feels completely alien. Your country's getting bombed to shit, and you have to provide for your kids, right? And so it does take on a really heightened feeling of having to provide and having to work hard. Yeah.
So how did you become more of the leftist?
I don't know. I'm still surprised. I think I don't know how.
Where
this
did
happened.
it all go wrong?
Yeah, I do. No, I do some. I think there's one thing that I always thought, like, oh, I wish I kind of earned more money. I feel like with my background, I could have earned more money.
Okay.
I could have gone down particular job paths that, where I could have, I think, maybe earned like 100K plus or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think meeting certain people along the way, hanging out in friendship circles where they were like, but what about the left? And what about, what about race relations? What about these things? So I just fell in with the wrong crowd. That were like...
That is the most Asian thing you could say. It's like, oh man, I started hanging out with those lefties and that's the wrong crowd. Like,
yeah,
general Western society would determine that the wrong crowd looks a little different, but yeah.
I mean, I'm being tongue-in-cheek. I think they're the right crowd.
They're the best crowd, yeah.
They're the best crowd. And I just... There was something about the stories that was being told in that circle about, migration, race, and... reading scholars within cultural studies, anthropology, sociology, kind of like, okay, these are my peoples.
Yeah.
Like, and
you found your tribe.
Yeah, found my peoples, and they were addressing the kind of life questions that I wanted addressing. And I was like, yes, I need to hold on to that.
You found your crew. I think you stayed true to who you are, and you should always do that. You could have gone for that big corporate... tech job, and maybe farther down the line you might do some consulting, but like if you're not authentic to yourself, which I think you are, and you're happy in what you do and you are contributing to society, you might not be getting that in your pocket, unfortunately, because that's just not how we've structured society, but it'll pay off in other ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it has already paid off.
Oh, that's really cool. And what is one word that you would think of that comes to mind when you think about money?
I guess I would say that money is a cultural artifact, and maybe that's one interesting way to think about it. And I think about it this way because, money has a very, and I think people forget that dimension of money, that it's embedded in our social lives and cultural lives, and its meaning kind of derives from being a part of our culture and social life. And that's why I think it's cultural and social.
I like that. I really like that response. And when we were speaking earlier, one of the things that you brought up was, so obviously you're in the crypto space, right? And crypto and gambling are, in one word, similar, different ways, but they are the same thing. And you refer to it as hope money. And I thought that was such an interesting way to look at it, because it is, right? You're taking a punt. Like a gambler, as you said, there's like, it's a morally loaded term, gambling. But then what's the difference between that and a trader or someone who's, mining or doing whatever?
I do think of crypto as hope money. People are living their lives in society feeling like the waged labor just isn't enough to get what you want, right? Whether that's you're a migrant or whether you're a teacher, whether any job that involves doing a 9 to 5, it's just absolutely not possible. And I think people realize the limitation of wages, right? And as a result, they're looking for alternate ways to work money, right? To rework the relationship between £1 £1,000 and £1,000,000, right? And when I mean rework the relationship between money, and this is where it gets theoretical, is kind of like, if I'm doing a waged labor, I know, let's say my income is £10 an hour, then I need to work 10 hours to get that £100, right? But if I'm engaging with crypto or a volatile thing, I know that, I just need to like press a button and then that does something, and then there's a chance that I might get that £100 anyway.
And is there a chance, is there a thing of like ownership there as well? Because that £100 that you worked, doing your 10 hours of your job, it's not yours, right? You got to pay the tax person. You've got to pay whatever else your daily, like that £100 is never your £100.
Yeah.
You don't just get to keep it and be like, oh, I'm just sitting here pretty. Whereas like with the crypto space or when you play a slot machine, my mind cannot understand slot machines for the life of me, where I'm from in Sydney, like there are these clubs called RSLs. They're basically just glorified pubs. And they always have these like rooms where they're kind of dark. They look a little bit like a cheap version of Vegas, and it's just, no matter what time of the day, it's always a certain lighting. And it's people just like putting like $10, $20, $50, $100 bills. Is this still hope money? Because there's no skill in that, right? Whereas at least I'm assuming that with the crypto space, there's a little bit more knowledge needed to enter that and be successful, or is it not?
I don't think there's that much of a difference, or the difference for me, I think you're still engaging with chance to a great extent, right? And there are differences, but for me, the similarities are what are striking, that you're trying to work the relationship between money, right? And slot machines kind of prey upon you in different ways, right? They, suddenly appear in poorer neighborhoods. They never appear in your Kensington and Chelsea neighborhood or next to one of those fancy white houses in West London.
I wouldn't know. I never go there.
Well, they don't appear there, right? So they appear in poorer neighborhoods, and it's kind of predatory how they work, right? And yeah, it's a very predatory form of tapping into people's addiction and things like that as well. So is involved in kind of slot machine gambling and things like that.
That's true. Those like betting houses, like those betting, I won't name the brands, but we know what we're talking about. You see those betting shops and you can never really see inside, and people just scurry in there and scurry out of there really quickly holding little bits of paper or...
Yeah. It's crazy. It's not a place that you go thinking like, wow, I really want to be here because it's buzzing. Like, because it's a really depressing place.
Yes.
And it's always men that are there, that are slouched over, that look kind of angry or slightly depressed. And it's kind of, it's not a very healthy environment. And in the gambling industry, a lot of the money is made from, 1%. Or the 1% of, I don't know the exact figures, but 1% of the gamblers, right? They contribute to something like 80% of the income for like gambling. Again, check those facts. Like that's not exactly right, but roughly the ballpark we're talking about here. And that's crazy that it's like addiction that's fueling that gambling industry, right? And that story is then, people gamble for various reasons. Addiction, they're rich gamble as well. But also people that want to rework the relationship between money gamble, right? And just to give like a historical overview, like this phenomenon that I'm talking about, wages simply not being enough to live the life that you want, has always existed since like the birth of capitalism, right? So from kind of the Bank of England, right? I think it was formed in around 1696, 1697. It was formed to fund the war with France. And to do that, lottery tickets were sold, like 1 million lottery tickets or something like that. I think it was called the Million Lottery. And that's how money was raised, initially through just like a lottery, right? Which is no different to kind of gambling. And initially it was like the rich that kind of participated in this lottery. But then secondary markets opened up where poorer people participated in this lottery to kind of renegotiate their limitation of their wages, because they felt, the guy in the 17th century, 18th century was still like, oh crap, I still don't have enough money to pay for my kids, pay for for various things. And they were always looking, they had that realization, and they were always looking to chance and hope and these kind of things to rework this relationship with money. And so if we look at the history of money, that's always been a part of it, at least within capitalism. People are always trying to make it grow beyond what's possible through wages, right? And there's loads of interesting stories around that, trying to grow money beyond what's possible through wages. So, for example, one of my favorite stories is about, I think, in the Cauca Valley in Colombia. I think I told you this before. It was the wage workers there, these peasant wage workers. And so if they're called up to be a godparent, for example, they secretly conceal a peso note in their hand to baptize the money and put it under the kid being baptized, to baptize the money and not the kid. And it's a contract with the devil, right? And so the peso is supposed to multiply, and you're supposed to get loads of money through this contract with God to get this, to grow money, right? And the kid goes to, hell, but you get money. And then, so that's interesting, right? So these waged workers feel like there's no possibility to get money other than just making this contract with the devil.
And someone has said, you know what, I really think you're a sound person and I think you'd be a really great role model for my child. And you go, you know what, that's real cool. But what I really need is more cash. So what I'm going to do is damn your kid to hell, put that peso in their diaper, make sure I get that deal with the devil, and we'll just call it even at this stage. And see you later, buddy.
I mean, imagine what kind of situation you have to be in to consider that.
Quite bad. Quite bad, I imagine. How often does that happen? Like, is that a common practice?
I think,
do the parents check now? Like, is there a peso?
I think this article is written like 1973 or 83 or something like that. I don't know what happens now. I think the ethnography is that it's on a mountain slope. So on one side of the slope are these people that don't have land and work for wages.
Yeah.
And the other side of the slope, and so they're the people that baptize money. And on the other side of the slope are people who have their own land and can grow their own crops and garden, and they don't participate in this practice because they have enough.
Because they don't need to.
They don't need to. They have enough. They do that. So it's people that are, don't have a house, don't have a home to get the resources they need. They're the kind of people engaging in this practice that don't have land, don't have property. To engage in this exercise of hope. So what you were referring to was that, when I'm going on a tube in London, I'm constantly amazed by the ads for financial instruments on the tube, right?
Yeah.
So if you're traveling in London, just look at the adverts, and it's always like how to invest your money, how to make it grow. And during the pandemic, crypto ads were I think the most or second most paid for ads during the pandemic. But then I think TfL intervened and said okay, we can't have this many, it's kind of gambling too,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But it's, I was seeing ads during the pandemic, I invested in Hex and now I have 35,000% more. Just saying, dot. Like that was the ad, because they can't tell you to invest in Hex. They just saying it went up 35,000%, So it was kind of ridiculous time to be traveling on the tube then, and I was just snapping up these photos, just being like, wow, that's insane, and it just wasn't regulated at all in this country, and it still isn't very well regulated. And if you see the side of cabs and buses, they always have adverts for eToro, right? And again, it's come and invest in the market, come and engage with the market, make your money grow, right? Take a chance, take a punt, right? Why wouldn't you if you have no other way of realizing your life goals and hopes and dreams?
Well, firstly, I feel inadequate. When I'm seeing these, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough. Then you feel like, okay, you're feeling driven to do something, to make a change. And then you're feeling like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna take a punt. Now, I'm kind of a risk averse person for the most part. A savings account is as far as I get. Even a budget seems a bit too Wild West for me. But you constantly feel like you're not doing enough.
Mm.
It's a feeling of inadequacy. It's a feeling like, and this is what I found really interesting. It's like you have to work more, like outside of your 9 to 5, to work less.
Yeah.
How do these things compute? Do you know what I mean? It's like, do your 9 to 5, whatever, but like that's not how it is. Like the younger generation, like what am I? I'm Gen Y, I think. They're all about the hybrid life. They're all about like, and I think it's also a thing from COVID as well. I think it's a bit of a thing where we want more time to satisfy our own lives and whatever. And so it's like, how do you do that? Okay, but and then there's like I think we talked about the crypto bro culture, even on social media, the way you get targeted about, oh, if you do this, if you sign up to this program, if you join this seminar, I can teach you how to do these things. 3 easy steps to like become retired at 40.
I mean, so as I said at the beginning, I'm a leftist and like, believe in kind of big structural changes that have happened in the economy since like the 70s, 80s that have led to like financialization practices that has made constructed this figure of the entrepreneurial figure, the individual, right? So it's the retraction of the state, whereas before you would have had the state supporting you in various arenas. Now it's like go and fend for yourself.
100%.
Right? So, and no one's going to help you out if you're ill or if you have to look after your kid or none of that crap. So this language of empowerment, of entrepreneurialism. So I think it's, well, the things that you're talking about is you have to understand it from kind of deep structural changes that take place in the economy. And they don't just take place because that happened naturally. It's because things were designed this way. There was a philosophy in place to kind of say, no, it would cost too much to kind of provide all these infrastructural support for people. And this is the Thatcher and Reagan era of kind of like, no, people need to be able to support themselves. And there's something alluring to that, if you look at migrants and say like, oh yeah, I want to be, because they want to be seen as the agent of people. They narrate their life around being powerful figures that kind of go get shit done. Right. And that language and that aspiration is kind of monopolized in the wrong way to kind of say, oh, that means you can fend for yourself, right? It's like, no, these people need help. People, for various reasons, fall on hard times.
Of course.
And you need to support that.
100% agree.
And, so you're talking about the 9 to 5 and working outside the 9 to 5. You know that song, Dolly Parton's 9 to 5?
Working 9 to 5.
That's the one. Yeah.
It's a good song.
It's a great song, right? And the song was done for a movie it's a great movie, and it's about, I think, these secretaries that fantasize about killing their boss, right? And and talking about the kind of gendered labor women have to do at that time, getting sexist remarks from their bosses and so on, right? So it really highlighted powerfully the movie and the song kind of what a working person at the time had to go through, right?
Big for its time, actually.
Huge, like amazing song. But then recently, that song, Dolly Parton remade that song for advert for a website, like, I think like Square, I don't know the exact name of the website. And the song is called Working 5 to 9 now. She's changed the hours. So it's working 5 to 9 now. So it's about how after you finish your 9 to 5, you need to then get on that hustle to then do the 5 to 9 job to realize your dream.
You see?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's messed up, isn't
That's
it?
so messed up.
Yeah.
If Dolly's saying it, it's true.
It's not true, but
it's true. I mean, she got paid to say it. She sold out, but it's true. But it's it does feel like that a little bit, and some people are way better at it. When I was working at one of my previous jobs, I've always tried to get my mind into the stock market. Like I just, outside of a savings account, like, and don't even throw in like all the acronyms, the NFTs, the I no idea, right? Stock market. It seems like it should be pretty self-explanatory, right? And I had a friend and he was getting into it and, he sat me down. We were there for 45 minutes to an hour on company time. But, we weren't getting paid enough. So fine, this is how I'm getting paid. To try and learn how I can build my little salary, how I can make my £29,000 a year work for me. Still have no idea. No idea. We did a few of those sessions. No idea.
I think it's, the idea of this podcast is like, prefaced around this idea that, you feel inadequate about money and
Is
how
that
it
coming
works.
across? Yes,
Well,
it is.
I listened to a trailer and, that was kind of the idea, right? And that's interesting. And I think that, I think it's interesting that you're being made to feel that way, right? And I think you're being, well, I suspect that one reason why you're being made to feel that way is because the people that tell story about money, you have these official storytellers of money, your economists, your bankers, your financiers, and they have very specialist language, like, to kind of like a CD or like an NFT or things like that kind of gatekeep about kind of money, right?
Yeah.
But the idea of investing and all that stuff is quite straightforward. You invest in things that have value, right? You invest in your kid, you invest in your social relationships, invest in things that you think are going to be good.
Yeah.
That's essentially it.
True.
Right? Yeah. And but I think there's a lot of fear around from people, and I teach students, and they always have this like anxiety about talking about the economy or talking about money because they're slightly afraid to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, what if I sound dumb because I say that? Or what if I say this about the stock market and then I sound dumb? It's like...
Exactly.
It's like a very technical language. Like, how are you supposed to know that?
Because Karen down the road, for some reason, is heavy in the crypto game. Yeah. And you're like, how did you get there, Karen? And then you're like, well, the gatekeepers already made me feel a certain way. And now so-and-so is now there, and how come I'm not there? Do you know what I mean? That's where I think it comes from now, is it's growing and I'm getting older and I'm like, do I have enough savings? Is my kid going to be okay? Like, I didn't have enough financial literacy given to me, I think. I don't want that to happen to him. I want to make sure that he, has money, but also knows how to use it. Because I don't feel like I've ever known. Like, even a simple concept of like a budget. Budget just seems limiting to me. It seems scary. It's numbers on a page that make me feel, oh my gosh, like, how can I really tell you how much I spend on food? I need to eat food. I like this certain food. I'm going to buy this food. You can't tell me how much I can eat. And that's where it comes from. Yeah, there's an inadequacy there. I feel that.
I can hear it. Yeah.
And I don't think I'm alone. And I have friends who on completely different ends of the pay scale, right? People who are in the 40,000 pounds to the 200,000 pounds. And apart from the fact that one has more money than the other, financial literacy or knowing about money and how to make the most of it, kind of, the 200,000s don't necessarily know how to make their money extend. I have friends who are afraid to look at their bank account. They don't know how much they spend. They get anxiety, like actual financial anxiety. And then I have friends on the lower end who've always been good at investing, know how to make their money grow. And so when you sit, like, I'm probably on the more lower end, but you're like, ooh, okay, so you have no idea. You should really, you really know your stuff. Okay, where am I in all of this? That's where I am.
Yeah, I get that. I can hear the
anxieties in my body. And I think one thing that we talked about, and I really loved the way that you approached this. I have a sister, and she's only less than 4 years younger than me, and we have very different approaches to money. Now, obviously, this comes down to temperament, right? And how risk averse you are, or your appetite for certain things. But we couldn't be more different when it comes to money. And I've always wondered why that is, because it's not like there's a huge age gap between us where we grew up in kind of like same family but different context kind of situation. Maybe our parents were in different financial situations when her or I were born, but that's not the case. And what you said is, but like, what if we were talking about music? If you liked hip hop and she liked trance, why would that be a big deal?
Right.
It really made me think. And I think the only reason that it's becoming more of a thing, because before it was kind of funny. Oh, my sister's good with money. She squirrels money away. She's got good savings. I'm crap. That's fine. But as we're getting older, it's becoming more, part of the dialogue in my head, because I'm like, it just matters more. Like, it just creates obvious differences, If we want to spend on a present for my dad, obviously I'm limited in what I can spend, and she's, a bit more, she's different, or how she wants to spend, or how I want to spend, or what we value. That's the interesting bit. Whereas music,
Yeah, I think that's, I have very little practical advice on like where to store away money and things like that.
Oh,
And most of my thinking is on like, exactly what you said, like how can we think about money differently? And sometimes it's using analogies. Like, one thing is, I think I was trying to point out there was that, money is interesting because, like, as I was saying, we have these anointed storytellers that money has to conform to, like, it has often a tripartite definition, that it's a store of value, unit of account, and can be used in exchanges, right? So those are kind of the three definitions of what makes money. But the obvious question for me to ask is, like, who the hell said that? Why does it have to be that way, right? And if you look at historically, that's not what money has always been. And I think that is the biggest trick the anointed storytellers try to tell us, that money is just this one thing. It's a very uniform thing, and it's this thing that you just have to thing it and do it, and like then you'll get more of this thing, right? So
you gotta thing it.
you gotta thing it, yeah. It's an anthropological term.
So which study, which book, which...
Yeah. So, and I think the interesting thing is that money, yeah, you wouldn't ask this question if you ask like, oh, why do I have this approach to hip hop and my sister has this approach to hip hop? Like, it's you wouldn't think about it that way, right? So when you ask me what I think about money, I think about it more of a culture, right? Like, you wouldn't ask suddenly like, what is the definition of culture? Like, if you go, oh, if someone says, here are 3 definitions of culture, you'd probably say, actually, in my family, it's very different. We do it differently here. Or someone in Sri Lanka may say, we do it different here. Culture is very different here. Like, it would be insane to kind of give like a very singular definition of what culture is.
Yeah,
right?
Agreed.
Or what music is, or what these things are. But then for some reason with money, we kind of say like, yeah, sure. That makes sense. Yeah. And money hasn't always worked in these kind of 3 tripartite definition, and has worked differently, and people have had different kinds of money in the past, right? We've always lived in a monetary plural society, and this kind of last century or so that we're in, where we have this very single idea of money, is kind of very new, right? There's a group of people in Nigeria called the TIV, right? And they have these 3 spheres of exchange of money, right? So in the top sphere, money is used in the circulation of high goods or in marriages and things like that.
Okay.
Then there's a second group of sphere of exchange in which you can exchange different kind of money that are used to exchange different kind of things. And in the bottom sphere, there is everyday objects that are exchanged, right? And so these 3 spheres, you have different monies in each of these spheres, right? Yeah. And I always think, actually, that is kind of like how we live our life, right? So for example, if I'm investing in crypto, I have my hope money, right?
Yeah.
My hope money is money that's not going on rent, money not going to my family. It's that bit that's stored over left at the end of the day. I treat that money very differently to how I treat rent money. Rent money has to be stable for me. Mm-hmm. Hope money, I'm much more loose with it. Like, I'm like, okay, let me just see if that can be, if I lose it, I don't care. If I lose that object, I don't care. But the first money, if I lose it, I care a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, right. So are these the same things then? Like, is it still like, is money A and money B? Like, money I'm spending on crypto, money, is that the same thing? Like, so your attitude towards those different monies are very different, right? And if you think about it that way, and I think that's a much more helpful way to think about it, money, because then what really matters to people, social relations, their hopes and dreams, then become involved in explanation of those different spheres about money, right? So I think that's how I think about money. I think in like different spheres, I don't think about it as just one thing, I think.
I like that. And that's true. The thing that concerns me with all of this is that people start eating away at their A money to support the B money because of this bombardment, of like, well, if you just spend this money, if you give me 300 pounds, euros, dollars, we'll turn that into more, And that's where people are falling into trouble, with these, we talked about, multi-level marketing schemes, targeting, it's big now, this like work from home, you're working 40 plus hours a week, you can work 10 hours a week and earn twice as much, but invest a little bit here. And, then when you figure it out, it's actually, you got to sell to all your family and friends, become a bit of a pariah, and then you make your money off them selling to their family and friends. Now, this is just one of many schemes, right? But that's where I think then people are falling into debt because they're sacrificing column A to support column B, but then it's kind of crumbling.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like MLMs, they kind of proliferated in like 70s, 80s, preying on, again, people that wanted a little bit of side money, side hustle, and kind of narrated at young wives and mothers kind of, well, you're at home, you can do this, like, why don't you just do this? I think it was a Tupperware. Like that was one of those. There used to be like these Tupperware parties where you'd invite your friends and then kind of tell them about Tupperwares and then get them to sell and so on. And, we still have MLMs.
And I love Tupperware.
Yeah. And, it's like incredibly scammy, like, MLMs. And it's essentially a pyramid scheme.
Yes.
And the differences between them are, technical. But it's like in MLM, it's an MLM if you have a legitimate product. And it's a pyramid scheme if you don't have the product. That's essentially the difference. But what this legitimate product is, it's kind of open to debate anyway, that's another whole side interest in my life on I work on scams as well, right? And I just look at like why there are more scams than before. And it's just tied into all this thing that we're talking about, people looking to grow money and to realize it's awesome fecundity, how do we get money to do that? And that obviously there are bad actors kind of preying upon that and those kind of dreams people have as well, right? Especially in the cryptocurrency sector, there's people that are pumping out kind of scam coins or bad coins that are just used to
there are scam coins and bad coins?
Well, I mean, there's a famous example of, have you heard of the coin OneCoin?
No,
so
of course not.
OneCoin is the biggest financial scam in the world, I think. And not many people know it. There was this famous podcast done by a BBC journalist called Jamie Bartlett on it. It's really good. It's called The Missing Crypto Queen.
Okay.
And it's about how this OneCoin MLM crypto project, they were able to get somewhere around $5 billion from just people, looking to grow their money, and yeah, and it's like heartbreaking tales. People lose lives, people lose savings and things like that, right? And and it's all just like this dark side of hustle culture and dark side of that people don't connect that part to kind of this dream of like financial dream, right? They like to pretend that there's like a difference.
Yeah, there's a disconnect between those two, but
yeah,
they can easily.
But in my work, I try to highlight what those similarities in those kind of a startup dream and an MLM dream are. So, one article I have is about how those dreams are actually very similar in many ways in kind of MLMs and startups and things like that. But that's, again, another story.
That's season 2. You're coming back for season 2. We're going to talk about scam money. This is, well, you've opened that up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, look, to take that back to a happier place, because that's super depressing. If you had all the money in the world, what is something that you would buy or do with that?
That's easy. I will just get all my family from Sri Lanka to come here. I think so. Yeah.
Oh, that's super nice.
Yeah, is it?
I want to cry talking about That's really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
really
sure they would
lovely.
give me loads of shit and give me a hassle, but it's nice to have them around.
But that's what family does.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, well, thank you so much, and you're a good person.
Thanks.
Apparently, so.
Apparently.
No, it's very obvious. You're a very good person.
Yeah.
And this has been really eye-opening in a lot of ways. And now I'm going to go run home and listen to this podcast because clearly there's this big thing that happened and I didn't know about it.
This would be, when it comes out, it will be useful for me because I could just link it to my students and be like,
see, I'm cool.
or like more just like learn about this, or like learn about, just trying to give them, because I'm always trying to, because they're so intimidated in talking about money, you know, and the economy and labor, and like you start talking about like, as Marx said this, or as Weber said this, then just like instantly lose them. And just like, not lose them, or like they suddenly feel like, I have to like write this down, I have to like, they just type away when I just say all these terms. And I just like them to just bring their experiences and be like, how do you think about money? And like, that's the vibe that I'd like to set.
Because I think money, and as you said, you know, the people who hold the money, the gatekeepers, it seems elitist, to be honest. And you don't want to seem stupid or, you know, inadequate or you know, whatever in front of these people.
Yeah.
Because when you get the terminology wrong, when you get the terminology wrong, you immediately feel self-conscious about that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where it comes from. I mean, for me personally, like, I don't want to feel like, oh, sorry, did I just say something stupid?
Yeah. I mean, I guess
like
at
that
that moment, there's like two things. You can either be like, well, actually, I understand money and you guys are just being way too technical. Like, you know, I think having confidence to be like, yeah, you guys are ridiculous. Like, you know, like, you don't need all these technical.
I'll cherry pick what I need from that.
Yeah, you don't need to make me feel bad.
Yeah.
And I think, or you can kind of go down the way of like learning all the terminologies and to fit in. Like, you know, but I think obviously there's a in-between line to tread, isn't it? It's like, okay, for me it was like, okay, I'm going to learn what some of those terms are, but to really understand how money works, you don't need to learn all those terms, right? Another analogy for money could be like a car. Like, you know, you're trying to get from A to B, like, and you need a car to do that, right? But do you need to know how the car works in all its fine details? You probably need to know how to repair an engine. You might want to know how to change your wheels. You might want to turn on the aircon, but you don't need to know where the leather was stitched. You don't need to know, you know,
how the engine is put together and how the transmission is.
And if you did, that's great. You know, but like essentially it's a car. Like it gets you from A to B, and if no one can if at any point if someone's explaining the economy, labor, or money to you and you don't understand, it's always their problem because they haven't simplified it enough. Some of my like quote best investments have been from TikTok. Like,
really?
Yeah, just on like having made and it was complete dumb luck, you know, and it was just like investing in things like Dogecoin or something like that, or like investing in some other things based on like, and it was just dumb luck, you know. It wasn't like smart things, and but like there is this whole generation of kids now. We have more retail traders than ever before. So retail traders are just people that are, you know, less than like $2,000, or like, you know.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at like a retail trader's like, you know, trading account, it's somewhere between like $0 to $200 is where most of it's at.
Okay.
Right? And those guys they don't want to invest in, you know, like a really boring thing that gives you a 10%, 5% yield or something, like return, right? Because there's no point in that. Like if I'm investing $200 and I'm getting like 1% back, like why the hell do I care?
Why do I bother? Yeah.
You want Hex, which can go 50,000%, right? You know, and so you might as well lose that $200 at the hope that it can go 50,000%.
Hell yeah!
Rather than
didn't
like,
even know you could say 50,000%.
Yeah, I mean, this is not advert for Hex, but it's just like, you know, that's I think the engine that drives like meme currencies, meme coins, and some of crypto, not all crypto, but yeah, I think that's the engine.
Thank you so much. Okay. Keep doing the work you're doing, and thank you for doing the work you're doing.
Yeah, no worries. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.